are we called to embrace our own sexuality while also staying pure, and what this means whether you're single or you're married or you're engaged. Today's hot take is that sexual desire is holy. Why is it holy? It's holy because it is given to us by God. Sexual desire is holy because God designed it as part of human nature. It is time to truly understand and celebrate chastity while also promoting a positive culture around sexuality. Sexuality is intrinsic, meaning natural to humanity and who we are. So discovering and understanding God's plan for our sexuality as a whole will help us to live out our sexuality in our lives. We know it's not possible to separate sexuality from being human. We are human and we have these desires and these affections. We were created with affections and desires and the ability to love. And these desires are good and holy, but they can become distorted and they can become sinful. But the fact is that we're surrounded by this over-sexualized hookup culture, which is amplified in our media, in peer pressure, and in the world that we live in, where we are constantly desensitized to the sacredness of sex within the media and within the culture that we consume. And it becomes very easy to see sexuality as just another thing, but it isn't. It's something so sacred and so special. And no matter what state of life you're living in, we are all called to chastity, whether that is within marriage, within our single season, or in engagement. Chastity is not to be confused with celibacy or abstinence. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says that chastity means the successful integration of sexuality within the person, and thus the inner unity of man in his bodily and spiritual being. Sexuality, in which man's belonging to the bodily and biological world is expressed, becomes personal and truly human when it is integrated into the relationship of one person to another in the complete and lifelong mutual gift of a man and a woman. That is such a beautiful explanation, and also when you really delve deeper into understanding what love means, and love is to will the good of another person, you really understand to take out that idea of objectifying or emotionally using or physically using another. And if we really keep this definition of love, which is to will the good of the other, we will constantly always be asking ourselves, okay, like how am I loving this person? And in that way, you won't objectify them. So chastity falls under the virtue of temperance, which seeks to permeate the passions and appetites of the senses with reason. And we know that the virtue of temperance, so to temper, is to enjoy things in moderation. So Pope Francis has indicated that love in itself is chaste. He says, all of us in life have gone through moments in which this virtue has been very difficult, but it is in fact the way of genuine love, of a love that is able to give life, which does not seek to use the other for one's own pleasure. So in that way, we know that chastity is the opposite of lust. And lust is the disordered desire for sexual pleasure away from the true meaning of sexuality and marital love. Lust uses another person as a means for sexual gratification, while chastity affirms the whole person, body and soul, over and above his or her sexual qualities. It helps us to recognize the great goodness and profound meaning of human sexuality and authentic sexual desire as ordered to the love of man and woman in marriage. How beautiful is that? So modesty inspires everything from our clothing to our behavior to what we consume culturally, out of reverence for the dignity and mystery of oneself and others. A reverence which includes appreciation and respect for human body. One way we can act this out is when we're watching a TV show or movie, and if a sex scene pops up, we choose to forward it, because what goodness are we getting from watching that? Because it only continues to desensitize us away from seeing how holy sexuality is. Chastity rejects selfish gratification, which is the enemy of love. And now this is really interesting. So we are called to express the truth, God's truth, with our body. This is where ideas like the theology of the body come up, and the language of the body must always correspond to the truth about various relationships and settings. Let me explain. We hug family members and friends and not strangers. We kiss our loved ones, we don't kiss our teachers. We kneel in prayer, we kneel to Jesus in front of the tabernacle. We don't do that to just anyone. And obviously the most intimate expression of our body is reserved for marriage in the marital act, because it speaks a language saying, I am committed to you alone for life, no matter what, and I'm open to bringing forth new life with you. So to engage in sex before marriage is to lie with your body. You're lying with your body rather than speaking the truth, because your body is proclaiming the one message that you have become one flesh, that this is a union for your time on earth, and that you're open to creating new life, and yet your relationship status is saying something else. And that means that the reality of your relationship is not the truth. And the truth is that the sexual act is to consummate a marriage and then to renew your marital vows every single time. And we know that the definition to consummate is to complete and to finish. And it does mean to complete marriage through the sexual act. So we have this word to consummate, to complete. And if you're having sex before marriage, then you're not doing that. You're not actually completing, you're not seeing it through to marriage. And we know that premarital sex, it's not meant to be this testing ground or trying out, compatibility or anything like that. And I do want to say that if you have had sex before marriage, know that we believe in a God of mercy and redemption. And the time to change and to really choose chastity is today. And please don't feel condemned or judged. You just run to our Lord and you ask him to help purify your heart. And here's another hot take that a lot of us struggle with, and that is that masturbation is an abuse of the natural sexual desires, because sex is made for marriage and only marriage. And I get it, the sexual appetite is very powerful, and sometimes you might feel, well, who am I harming, especially if I'm able to engage in masturbation without the use of anything such as pornography. And in this way, masturbation could seem like a harmless way of fulfilling this sexual appetite, this sexual desire. It just never has the ability to truly satisfy, and it's only within a chaste and holy marriage that sex can fulfill that desire and that appetite. And speaking about pornography, we know it is an abuse of sexuality on so many levels. First of all, pornography objectifies another person, and we know that is bad. We are called to love people and use objects, not to use people and love objects. And secondly, we know that so many people involved in pornography have often been coerced or abused into being into that situation, which means you are literally witnessing and endorsing modern slavery. We know that is so wrong, and we are called to see everyone with respect and dignity. In fact, modern brain science shows us that pornography addictions are the same as addictions to drugs. And the problem with pornography is that you will bring these issues and these disordered appetites and ideas into marriage, and that could really, really hurt your relationship and hurt your spouse. So it's really important to keep your sexuality pure and holy by not consuming these things that just disorder your ideas and your understanding of sex. The way that we can really help to purify our mind is to only focus on what is lovely, true and good, aka don't be watching things which are tempting for you, skip over sex scenes, definitely do not consume pornography, and try to really focus on understanding the beauty of every single person, because that will really help you to stop wanting to look at anyone like an object. Furthermore, covetousness is a form of desire for that which is not yours, and anyone who struggles with envy or comparison knows this sin very well, and it is a difficult sin, and it's one that's really rooted in pride, and we know that pride is the devil's biggest sin. So please, let's try to reject it as much as possible. And I struggle with pride so much, but in this commandment, one sins if we willfully desire someone else's spouse. I'm gonna say that even includes celebrities, and until someone is our spouse, anyone who is currently single could well be someone else's spouse in the future. So remember to treat those that you are dating, those that you are crushing on, with the utmost respect, because they may not be your spouse. Chastity is a choice, and it's a choice that we're going to make every single day, but it's one that is so amazing when we understand it. And when we truly do understand our sexuality and chastity and how chastity is love and what love means, it's going to be impossible to not want to choose that every day. So I really hope that this video has been helpful. I know it's been a bit heavy and I read a lot of my notes from it today, but I would love to hear your comments and how you think we can really strive to live out our sexuality in the most holy and pure way possible, regardless of what state in life we are, and remembering that we do not live by rules, but we live by relationship, and that helps us to be free within the guardrails of what our faith teaches us, what our Creator has created for us. And it's also beautiful and I geek out about it, so I will stop there. But thank you so much for listening. Please leave some comments because it's always interesting to open this debate and I'm always learning. And don't forget to subscribe to Salt for more theological content on dating and love. All right, God bless, bye.